Hey, what's up, beautiful people? Welcome to another episode of Behind Red Doors with your host, Wayne McPherson. And today I am joined by the beautiful Avni Panchal, the Indian counselor, and we will be talking all things mental health. So, without further ado, ladies and gents, please enjoy the rest of the episode. So, Avni, welcome to Behind Red Doors. We've had a brief introduction already. Behind Red Doors is where we have conversations that most people don't really have in general public, right? But this can go a number of ways. Today we're talking about mental health, which is on a huge rise at the moment, but I still think not a lot of people are clear. There's sort of a generalized understanding of mental health. But what do people need to really know and understand in terms of mental health?
Yeah. Hi. Thank you for inviting me to your show. I'm very excited to be here. Yes, mental health is such a conversation. I think it's happening a lot more because of the pandemic. It's sort of just opened the door for people to have a conversation. Um, and even the word mental health can have so many emotions for people, to be honest, because I come from a culture where I'm a woman of color and I immigrated to United States when I was a teenager. So mental health in my culture is like, oh, you don't talk about that, or it happens to, someone else or a certain group of people, but not us. And so it's been interesting to kind of see the shift to where people are more open to even saying something like, I'm feeling stressed, or I'm overwhelmed, or I'm happy, or I'm sad. And even just that is mental health, but we don't tag it that way. It's an important conversation. So I'm very excited that this is happening more and more during the pandemic. I would say on a deeper level, mental health people tend to think, oh, diagnosis or mental illness or something's wrong with you. But mental health simply could be, how is my day going
Mm.
today? If I check in with myself, where am I, what am I feeling? What's my stress level? Have I been present in today? Or am I just kind of running through the task? And even that simple check in would be you checking in with your mental health.
Right, right. So, with your skills and your clients, what do you advise them to do to sort of tap in? Because I think we get lost in our day so often, and
Mhm.
being tired, being stressed, being overwhelmed is sort of a norm. Like that's what you're supposed to experience throughout your 9 to 5 work day, right? So how does someone tap in and say, okay, cool. Is my breathing okay? Am I feeling overwhelmed? Am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling stressed? Do I need to take a break? What are some keys that you can offer to say, guys, check in on this just to ensure that you're still on the right path?
Yeah. And I love that you're bringing that up because I don't think we even have a moment to check in. Depending on how busy your day is, you may be gone for hours and you probably haven't even something simple like stopped and drank a sip of water, or maybe you're having lunch right next to your desk because that's also very common. I
Mhm.
know I'm from United States and that it's a very just go 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 culture, right? And that's true for other countries too. It's not just here. And so sometimes people haven't even thought about, hey, let me take a pause. Why am I so elevated? Why is my heart racing so much right before I have to talk to my boss? Or why am I, my palms are sweaty? Or I'm someone where if I'm really stressed, I hold a lot of my tension like in the back of my
Okay.
neck.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I slowed down to realize, oh, my neck is
Mm.
tense because I'm in this situation that's making me stress.
Yeah.
But a lot of us don't even have that moment to check in or realize we need to check in. I think the busy work culture also doesn't help because we're sort of holding it as a badge of honor of
Mm.
look how busy I am and how filled up my schedule is, when the reality is it's really important in order to sustain us long term to have those mini check-ins. So something quick as even putting a random timer on your phone
Mhm.
that says check in with yourself could be a great tool of, okay, let me take a pause. Because another thing that I've noticed in myself and even with my clients that I work with, you tend to go 120 miles per hour and you're either thinking of the future
Hmm.
about what I need to do, or you're thinking about the past and what are things that you haven't done that you maybe have regrets over or could have done it better. But it's very hard for us to actually be in the present moment.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that pandemic did very glaringly for all of us, unanimously, was that it forced us to actually be present, because
Hmm.
there weren't the distractions that we had in our day to day kind
Hmm.
of went away.
Yeah.
And so it really forced us to be, oh, and you saw the like increase in anxiety for many people for that reason, because we don't really actually take a moment to be present. So yeah, simple check-in, like putting it on your timer, or even I have people put like a post-it on their computer screen right next to them that reminds them to breathe or take a sip of water. So those things are very small. I'm very big as a therapist to do things small. I tell my clients this too. I'm like, we're not conquering a mountain.
Yeah.
That's not going to be sustainable. So little things are very important to me.
Awesome. Okay. So working a 9 to 5 has its own stressors, right? Um, but in a way, with as much respect as possible, it's routine. Okay, you have a routine day. Now, an entrepreneur, self-employed business owner, it's a bit different. When I had my first business, that's when I figured out, whoa, this is a whole different level of stress that is affecting me in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So for the entrepreneurs which have a day filled of a bunch of stuff, sometimes completely
Mhm.
trapped inside their head, trying to figure out the next move, the next opportunity, the next client, the next thing. They're forever living in the future, very rarely in the present, and that's only if they've kind of achieved something. And they're always living in the past because they're running away from something in the past, right? How do you advise entrepreneurs to, again, be mindful of their mental health? Because there's a stigma. If you're not working endless nights, you're not working, right? If you're not doing too much, you're not doing anything at all. How do we check that in and still say you can still get amazing results?
That's a lovely question. And as an entrepreneur myself, this has been my learning curve, and I'm
Mm.
sure other entrepreneurs are going to resonate as well. You don't have a boss as an entrepreneur.
Mm.
So a lot of us, when we're employed, you are told this is when you work, this is when you have your time off, here's your break, here's your lunch hour. When you're an entrepreneur, you are setting that schedule.
Mhm.
And so part of that brings freedom of I can work whenever I want, whether I start early. If you're a morning person, you can start early. If you're, night person, maybe you start later. However, there's no one telling you, hey, this is a structure you need to establish. Take a vacation, have a sick day.
Mhm.
Here's a mental health day. No one is telling you that. So, to your point, it elevates this guilt of, oh, I'm taking time off, but how is my business progressing, right? And so I feel like boundaries are so incredibly important as an entrepreneur, because no one is there to tell you, hey, this is the structure you need. And the thing that's helped me, and this is because I work with founders as well, um, it's really important for you to recognize you want to sustain this business or your entrepreneurship long term. If you want to sustain it long term, it absolutely requires you to have boundaries. You're going to feel like, oh, but I don't want to take time off, or oh, no, I don't, want to check in. But that's what's actually going to sustain you, because one of the common things that happens with entrepreneurship, because there isn't anyone telling you, here's your structure, here's your time off, we're off this day, that doesn't happen. So you have to build those in for yourself on, when am I taking a time off? How many weeks do I want to give myself in a year? If I want to take a month off, how am I spreading that out? Am I taking lump sum? And so it's going to be boundaries are going to be very, very, very critical.
Mhm.
And so if you are someone who's, driven and ambitious and you want to make it, it has to come with you taking care of yourself first,
Hmm.
because you are the business.
Yeah.
If your health and your mental health and well-being isn't in check, your business isn't going anywhere.
Hmm.
And that's one of the things I have had to realize very clearly is, as much as I want to, help my clients, I am not going to go anywhere if I'm not put together when I show up for my session, or when I do consulting work, or when I do training. I have to be put together. And a lot of us think it's the other way around. I need to give as many hours to this, and that's what's going to make it productive.
Yeah.
But you filling your cup up is actually going to bring more creativity in the mix. You feeling good about yourself. So, all of those things are going to be very, very important. And I think boundaries is one of those things that entrepreneurs really have to adhere to, just as a rule, the same rule, like I have a project and this is the deadline.
Hmm. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. In saying that, then, is there a difference between how women handle mental health compared to how men handle mental health?
Um, Yes, and also it depends, because I don't want to say stereotypically, yes, women are more open to talking about their emotions and feelings, and then negate that there are absolutely men or people who are gender binary or gender neutral that are open to talking about feelings as well. I think one thing that I would say is culturally, and this goes for any culture, or most cultures, women are given more space to
Mhm.
share their emotions about what's happening. There's more acceptance if a woman, has some emotions come up, whether it's at work or personal, and that's more accepted. But I've seen for men, when those emotions come up, they may not necessarily be accepted the same way. And or there's a stigma of you can't show emotions, or you need to be strong. But I know that's true, for some women as well. So Black women, for example, it's very this notion of strong Black woman. And so it almost gives this idea of you can't show emotion. So I don't necessarily want to say a blanket statement. And I do think there is more space given for women in terms of being open to sharing about emotions and feelings. And that is sort of taught almost. And I don't know how much of that is also taught to men, which then creates this weird toxicity among, as someone who identifies as male, to not be open to talking about feelings, which then just brings up more emotions and they're repressed, and that's also going to impact your mental health and well-being.
Awesome. Okay, in saying that, I want to talk about two other things as well. I want to talk about suppression, and eventually I
Mhm.
want to talk about self-care. So we're going to touch on suppression because I feel there's a lot of people that suppress their feelings, either because they don't know how to regulate it or they don't feel like it's validated to talk about it, but they just suppress it and go along. How do you communicate? So as a counselor, you might have friends or family members that you can tell, look, you're going through, you need to talk, like talk about it. They also know they want to talk, but maybe they're fearful of talking or they don't know what to say or the fear of being judged. How do you warm someone into just, or what's tips that they can use to maybe to open up to themselves to eventually feel comfortable to open up to a professional or a confidant?
Yeah. Um, Happens all the time. So it's very common. So if anyone's listening, which I'm sure they are, this is an extremely common thing that happens. So if you are out there and you're wondering, oh, do I say something? Do I not? Is it only me? I'm here to just burst the bubble and say it is absolutely normal. That is something that I also put on my about page, is asking for help can be really, really scary. As an immigrant woman, asking for help is not something that I was taught early on, because there's this notion of you have to figure it out on your own and you have to be independent. And so when there are moments where, oh no, I need to reach out to a friend or I need to talk to someone, that has a certain, like, oh, there is a stigma there. Do I go there? So I just want to normalize, first of all, that asking for help is actually very courageous. It takes a lot of vulnerability for someone to say, hey, I'm not okay and I need help.
Yeah.
Couple things that, and this is what I tell my clients or family member or friend as an example that you gave. If you're noticing someone really wanting to talk to someone or they would really benefit from talking to someone, I think it will be really important to sort of normalize, hey, this is okay. What you're going through is common. It happens to people, not from putting them down or, blaming or shaming, but really sort of normalizing the experience because maybe you've also felt stress at some point and you can share that. A lot of times it's sharing our stories that helps us realize, oh, I'm not alone. I felt very isolated in what I was feeling. Now I've talked to someone, I'm realizing they also went through that.
Yeah.
And that kind of creates that, oh, okay, I can, lower my stress a little. The other thing that I tell family, friends, or clients as well, if you are noticing your reaction, because let's say you're someone who's, like, no, 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 I'm not going there. I don't have these feelings. I'm not looking at it. Just suppress, suppress. If you notice yourself reacting to something that had nothing to do with what you are stressed about or worked up about, and you're giving, like, let's say if you scale that reaction from one being not as much of a reaction to 10 being a really, you know intense reaction. If you had a scale 10 reaction to like someone moving your water glass, it may be a moment for you to say, oh, okay, hold up, what was that about? Because it wasn't about the water glass. And I think sometimes it's important for people to have those check-in moments because they're thinking, no, 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 I'll just ignore it and it'll go away and I'll be fine.
Hmm.
But then you'll have in some area of your life a really massive reaction to something that doesn't deserve that.
Yeah.
It may be an important moment, not out of blame or shame. I'm very big on compassion. It may be an important moment to check in with yourself of, okay, what was that about for me?
Hmm.
Because it that may be like things boiling up and coming up, and now they're kind of showing up in different places because
Yeah.
there's no outlet for
Yeah.
it to be anywhere.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. You said something about basically reacting to a lot of things, right?
Mhm,
And before we started recording, we spoke about what got me into this sort of field.
mhm,
I
mhm.
spent most of my life as a personal trainer. What I realized was the relationship I had with my clients was more about my ability to counsel, right? So everyone was there to work out. Workout was fantastic, but we would spend sometimes an hour before our workout just talking about background problems, right? So what I've come to learn over time, especially after because I sold my gym and decided, okay, I want to get into something different. I enjoy talking to people. A lot of people want to talk. They just need to find the right person that they feel comfortable talking to. And I've always wondered, okay, I get all these clients, they want to do more talking than they want to do training. And I have to push them to get the training done. Anyway, what I've come to realize is they were turning to the gym or turning to fitness because they were trying to either cover up or deal with some sort of emotional space that they're dealing with, right? Um, which self-care, exercising, looking after your body, kind of building your your image, which then builds your confidence, allows you to do or become something different. Apart from probably exercise, what other self-care tips can our listeners tap into to get to that mental space of peace or reassurance or comfort?
Yeah. And I'm all about self-care. And the caveat to that is it's such a buzzword now
Yeah.
where everyone's like, oh, yes, self-care. And I'm a therapist, but I'm also very practical as a person because my career started as a social worker. So
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what does that mean in practicality? So I love that you're asking that. Yes, exercise, there's so much research out there that like the endorphins are really helping you shift your energy and it's making you feel better. So there is a biological absolute effect that it's helping you.
Hmm.
Having said that, in addition to just physical activity, is the other things that are really, really important when it comes to self care is having that mindful moment. I'm very big on mindfulness. And it doesn't, when I say mindfulness, that's another buzzword as well. And so I
Hmm.
just want to break it down. It could simply mean I'm sitting here and taking a few deep breaths because I just need to, calm the nerves a little.
Hmm.
That's mindfulness as well. Or you sipping a glass of water and not really checking your phone or anything. That's mindfulness.
Hmm.
You slowly eating your food and really tasting it and, feeling the flavors and the temperature and all of that. That's mindfulness as well. So, one, I just want to name anytime you're being in the present moment, that's mindfulness. It doesn't have to be meditation, although meditation is something that can absolutely be very, very helpful, and I highly encourage it. If you're someone that's never done meditation or you're like, this is too foo-foo for me, it's going to be important to simply just start with focusing on your breath.
Hmm.
That's a meditation as well. So very big on mindfulness. There's a lot of research out there on mindfulness also really helping people when it comes to self-care and increasing someone's well-being.
Hmm.
Another one that I'm very big on is gratitude. And when I say gratitude, again, many gratitude journals out there and many buzzwords, and for me it's simply because our brains, and this is truly research and is real, we all have a negativity bias. So
Right.
what that means is, even from this conversation, 2 years from now, if something negative happened in our interaction, that I'm going to be a lot quicker to remember
Hmm.
than what happened well. And our brains are sort of biologically, for our own evolution, primed to show us what is not working.
Hmm.
And that was we need to, biologically save ourselves sort of evolutionary thing that happened. However, it doesn't allow us to look at what's working. So when I say gratitude, I really mean take a moment and see in your life what is actually working. Because if I asked you the question of what's not working, you could give me a laundry list of all the things that are not working,
Yeah.
but it takes a little bit more time for us to say what is working. So when it comes to gratitude, if you are really struggling and you're not in a place to say, you know, I don't really feel grateful for anything, then maybe don't start with the word gratitude. Simply start with what is working in my life, what is going well.
Hmm.
That's also gratitude. And to the point of gratitude journal, and this is something I've done since 2017 and continue to keep doing. I actually didn't like the word gratitude in the beginning because when I started this, I was going through something really personal and just I was in like the deep dark shadows
Yeah. There's
basically.
nothing to be that
and
serious about.
it, exactly. And I needed something that was going to ground me, but I was a total bratty teenager about like there's nothing going well in my life. I'm not interested in this. And so I knew for me, I needed it to be something that I could resonate with. So I changed the prompt to be, what were three things that brought a smile to my face? And I did it in the morning, so it would be for the day before, but you could do it at night and, kind of think about your day. It took me less than a minute or two, but I would literally write very simple things and it didn't have to be grand. So I live in Oakland, California, in the Bay Area, in downtown Oakland pre pandemic. If you needed a parking spot, that was like, you have some gratitude for that. And so I would simply write, like, found a parking spot in downtown Oakland, or it's sunny today, or, got to text a friend or call a friend. So it would be very simple things. And as I said, I started it and I had an attitude of a bratty teenager, like, found a parking spot, and but I would still commit to writing it every day.
Okay.
And what ended up happening over the months is I started seeing a shift in my brain of, oh, I could put that in my journal.
Hmm.
Oh, I could put that in my journal because it really does prime your brain to start seeing more and more what is working in your life. So that was my method. You don't have to use a journal. You could put it on your phone, or you could simply take a moment at night or during the day. But gratitude is another big thing that I highly, highly recommend in addition to mindfulness. And that check in that I brought up in the beginning of this conversation is also just as important of just simply taking a moment to check in. How am I doing? How am I feeling?
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And where did it start for you? Like, what got you in towards the counseling and the mental health? Was there a trigger? What stood out?
Um, I actually fell into this career. And so for anyone out there who is like, I don't know what my calling is, it's okay. It comes with, just the decisions you're making in life. So this is my 11th year in my career. I today know exactly why I got into this, but
Hmm.
as an 18-year-old that was trying to figure out what major I pick, no idea that I was going to land here. To be really, really honest, I wanted to stay in this college in my city. They didn't allow you to pick any major as undecided. So you had to pick a major as an 18-year-old.
Okay.
And I knew what I didn't want to do more than what I wanted to do. So I'm like,
Okay.
okay, I don't want to. And I'm Indian. So in my head, it's like engineering or medical. And I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do that. And so I was like, I took this psychology class in ninth grade. It was very interesting. Let's try that.
Yeah.
And I got really lucky that when I sat in college, my first day, first trimester, I loved psychology. I was like, this is great. I really like to know why people do what they do.
Yeah.
And that just sort of trickled down to, okay, I wanted to study further. I want to go to grad school. What degree do I pick? And I ended up picking social work. I didn't know at the time in undergrad that I was already doing social work because I was working with foster youth at a nonprofit. And I had no idea that was social work until actually started studying it. So
Yeah.
it's interesting that my career sort of taken me with like, I've made this decision and then it's taken me here and then it's taken me here. But even the transition of social work to therapist has been something that's a learning curve because in my head, I was like, I don't really want to be a therapist because that's someone who's white and who asks about feelings, and I'm not white and I don't want to ask about feelings. And
Right.
so I've also, over the years, learned how do I show up in my authenticity
Hmm.
where it doesn't have to look like traditional therapy,
Yeah.
but it's more real. We're open to talking about culture, where, people can show up the way they want to show up. So if you're my client, I'm more, I tell you upfront, like, if you want to cuss, if you want to don't talk about feelings, it's completely fine because I really want people to show up the way they want to show up. So that's been my journey. But like I said, I really want people to understand. I didn't know that this was going to be my calling as an 18-year-old. However, it's absolutely my calling today.
Hmm.
And looking back, I totally see why I got drawn to psychology and social work and therapy because I'm the mediator in my family. I have friends who call me when they have any things that are coming up. So it makes sense why I picked it. But when you're that young, I had no idea that all of this was going to follow.
Takes a while for you to see how well the dots add up.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, for our final question, we have about 5 minutes towards the end. When should someone consider therapy or counseling or anything of that sort?
Yeah. So definitely when you're really feeling, you know, whatever is going through my life, I need a little bit more reinforcement than just talking to my friends. And I'm not saying talking to your friends is not good, absolutely is important, but there may be some times where friends really can't help us the way we really want them, because it needs more space. It
Mhm.
needs more someone else who doesn't know anything about your life to come in and give you that perspective. So, yes, when you're really feeling, I am. getting impacted in a way that needs help, absolutely. I'm also a big believer where even if things are going well in your life, it's very important that you have someone and some space where you're just processing the things that are going well. Why did you do what you did, so that you have an understanding about, why you make the decisions you make. So I tend to tell my clients and people that I talk to, think of therapy as an investment in getting to know you,
Hmm.
because a lot of us don't actually take the time to get to know ourselves. What triggers me? What doesn't trigger me? Why did I make a particular decision over another? And so, yes, absolutely, when you're going through something that feels like, hey, I need some more reinforcements, but also when things are going well, it may be important to really figure out getting to know you at a level that's going to help you understand better. So when you do have those moments of reactions, you exactly know why that happened
Hmm.
and why that triggered you in a way that brought up that reaction.
Yeah, fantastic. Because I think that is something a lot of us don't understand as yet. We do a lot of things based on reaction. So we're reacting to a lot of things around us. We don't know why. We're not clear, but also a lot of people don't ask questions. And I think it's something that we've just developed over time. We just don't ask. We read about it, we hear about it, we're told about it, but we never investigate further. And I do believe that a lot of people could benefit from just sitting down with someone that has knowledge, wisdom, and experience that can help you and guide you learn more about you. And the more you learn about you, the more you can take control of everything around you that's within your control, right? We're often mainly focused on the things that's outside our control, and that takes us to the point where it damages our mental health. So, ladies and gents, Avni, it's been a pleasure having you here. Very, very insightful. So I definitely look forward to having a full-on, deeper conversation with you at some point. Is there any message you'd like to leave the audience before we end this recording?
Yes. Once again, asking for help is courageous, and you are actually practicing self-love when you are asking for help. And please follow me on social media. My handle is at the Indian Counselor. I just started a YouTube channel and we'll have way more videos. So please follow me on YouTube at the Indian Counselor to just get more tips around mental health, well-being, Indian culture, entrepreneurship, and everything under the sun.
Perfect. So the Indian Counselor, you have LinkedIn, you have Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and you have your website, correct?
Yes, and my website is Strength and Self Love. So for those of you that are interested in, you know, working with me on an individual or a couple level, or consult, because I also consult with organizations, strengthandselflove.com is going to be the easiest way to reach out to me. I have it set up where you actually don't even have to email me to book a free consult. You could see the timings, and you could book a free consult. And I wanted to take even that piece away where it's so much courage, and now we're back and forth on, does this time work, does this not? So not just my sessions, but also even a free consultation. My schedule is already available online.
Fantastic. So Avni's made getting in touch with her super, super easy, where all you got to do is just book yourself in and, claim your slot. Apart from that, of course, hit her up on the Indian Counselor on social media handles, just to get your regular update of quality information, wisdom, and experience, as well as guidance. So, without further ado, thank you so much for turning up and tuning into Behind Red Doors podcast. It's been a pleasure, and I'll see you guys very shortly.